It's Emily Williams here, success coach, founder of I Heart My Life, and your host of the I Heart My Life show. So today's a very special episode because I have my husband, James Williams, here for an incredible interview. He has tons of amazing content to share with you. So I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit about him and then introduce him to everyone watching. So, after 12 years of working in TV and graphics, James could no longer ignore the feeling that he had more to give and he wasn't in the industry he wanted to be in. So he left TV to join me in my personal development business and studied to become a certified high performance coach through the High Performance Institute created by Brendon Burchard. So now James has integrated his programs and his work into I Heart My Life. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So welcome, James.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
I don't know that we've ever done this before. I don't know if I've ever really interviewed you in this way.
I know it's kind of scary, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, awesome. So I'd love to start at the beginning, not the very beginning, because we all know that you could, fill many hours with your incredible story. But take us back to that time where you were in this career, this 12-year career. You'd worked really hard to get yourself to that place, and then you started to realize that it wasn't what you wanted anymore. Take us back to that place.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think only now I realize that, we really do all continuously evolve, and what lights us up one year might not light us up the next year. And so way back when I started that career in television, it was so exciting, the world of TV and all those personalities and all those amazing people all excited to be in that environment. And I think that is what lit me up at the time. It was being in a high vibe environment with a lot of passionate people that are passionate about television and sport, especially because I was in the sports area. And I just loved the environment and the people. And I don't think I was aware at the time that the way of being in that environment and keeping me happy was the choice of doing graphics and production type work. That wasn't when I look back at what I was doing, the work itself wasn't the thing that was lighting me up. It was the people and the environment. Yeah. But for the first 6 years of that 12 years, it was great. It was amazing. Then I think my motivations were very extrinsic from that point because something wasn't right. Something wasn't challenging me enough. So I was very extrinsically motivated, very motivated by what it was other people wanted and thought was going to be amazing. So I learned some new kit and I got promoted to a new position and tried to find that passion and that motivation from other areas. And those motivations were very short-lived because they were extrinsic. They were outside of me, outside of what I found personally gratifying.
What other areas did you try and find motivation?
I got into a different type of design that was more challenging, more visual effects and visual effects animation, and I did things that just challenged me, that pushed my boundaries a little bit further.
I think a lot of people will relate to that. They might be in a career and they might think, oh, after the next promotion, I'll be happy. Or if I just go into this new role, I'll be happy. And they get kind of stuck in this bubble.
That's right. Yeah, there's all sorts of short wins that you think are going to be the things that will light you up. Money's the other one. I wanted to earn more money, right? Who doesn't want to earn more money? So I did what I could to challenge myself, please other people, and try and earn as much money as I could.
Yeah.
And then, years into that, I think really year 6, year 7, I'd realized that I was unhappy, but it took me I was stuck in that bubble for another 5 years until I actually could do something about it, which is scary when you think 5 years after realizing this isn't right, that the bubble's so tight that you don't see outside of that bubble. You don't see that there are other opportunities, which at the time I didn't. I was searching within that bubble. What else can I do in here to feel excited?
Yeah. And so what did it take for you to finally see that there was a world outside of the bubble?
Well, I met someone who inspired me. I think I'd got to a point where I was on the edge. If I was in that bubble, if you can imagine, I was poking at the edges of that bubble, suspecting that there was something on the other side. But
I like that.
But I was really just being so pulled by comfort that my passion for doing something bigger and finding out what that was overwhelmed by my comfort. And
but
so
isn't that
it wasn't
so
until
funny because you knew, and I'm just pointing this out because I think a lot of people will relate. And I don't mean to interrupt you,
Okay.
but you thought you were comfortable, or at least it felt comfortable to stay in that place where you were unhappy, but you chose that over the discomfort of something new and unknown. But when you really like rationally think about it, you know, there's nothing beautiful about being stuck and unhappy, or, you know, it might feel comfortable, but it's not a positive. But in that case, they were kind of both negatives in your mind, and the comfort outweighed doing something new. And I think a lot of people will get that.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the most common thing is actually, I knew who I was as that uncomfortable, unhappy, and unsatisfied person. I didn't know who I was outside of that. So it's a crazy comfort being someone you're unhappy with, which is a really common thing, like we now know. So, and then going back to your original question, it really was you that inspired me because, you know, I met Emily and she was this really highly driven, I always describe her as being like, she was like a frustrated genius without a direction when I first met her. Like she hadn't found her goal, but there was so much in there. And then when of course you found the personal development industry, and especially the way people like Marie Forleo were doing it, it lit something up in you. And I saw that. And what I saw in you was this idea of possibility without worrying about the how, which for me was a very foreign concept, because for me, it was like I needed to know some of the how to get started. Whereas you were just kind of, it lights me up. It's just so exciting. I'm not going to allow myself to fail.
Yeah.
And that really, that was confusing and inspiring. And it was kind of like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so you really opened up the door for me there. And then the next step for me was, okay, well, I believe massively in personal development. I always have done. So it made sense for me then to get a coach.
Yeah.
So I got a coach, and it was through my first coach, Sean, that, God bless you, Sean, that introduced me to Brendan Burchard. And I remember listening to The Charge by Brendan Burchard on my way to work. I was trying to fill the hours that, you know, that I wasn't being productive, which for me was when I was on the train traveling to work. Yeah. So I was listening to The Charge, and it had that effect on me that I know Marie Forleo had on you. It really opened something up in me. It spoke to all the areas of personal development and personal growth that I know I needed mastery in my own life to go to another level. And then being the sort of person that when they find something out, naturally wants to serve, naturally wants to share that with the world. I thought, this is my way into personal development. At that point, I didn't know how and what I was going to be coaching on and where that worked, but this was my route to become to really step into a better version of myself for that new journey outside of the bubble that would take a braver person.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, we're still close with Sean, so I'm glad that you mentioned him. And sometimes it just takes that one person to believe in you, because I remember Sean telling you, you know, well, urging you to put in your notice at work. And then I realized that we needed more support in the business. And so my coach encouraged me to ask you if you wanted to be a part of I Heart My Life and help in that way. And so all these people were really rooting for us and believing in us. And that made all the difference. So from there, you did leave your job and you joined the company. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But I just want to let everyone know that sometimes, you know, you can lean on other people and you can gain support from those people in your life who do believe in you, because it's not always easy to take that step.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a big reminder of, you know, who you are spending the majority of your time with. And if a lot of those people are stuck in the bubble and feeling like they want to hang on to comfort, then it's going to be even easier for you to stay stuck and comfortable. The moment you start getting people in your life that are just really taking big risks, really taking big leaps, really doing things that are way outside of what you would consider to be comfortable, then you rise to the level of your associations. You rise to the level of the people that are really lighting up those bits inside you. And so Sean was speaking to me and speaking sense into me and speaking to me in a way that was challenging me. And we all love, whether we admit it or not, we all love to be challenged, especially
Yeah.
when it's in alignment with what's, that inner voice, that little voice inside you that is trying to get you to grow. Because as human beings, it's not natural for us to be comfortable. We've grown up being told that comfort's a good thing. But
Yeah.
actually, as
It's
human
not
beings,
natural for us to be uncomfortable.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And so when you think about human beings and how we've thrived and how we've evolved, it's through challenge. The man didn't fly to the moon because it was a comfortable choice.
Yeah.
Christopher Columbus didn't discover, discover a lot of countries around the world because it was a comfortable, easy thing to do. It was stepping outside of comfort. And so that's human nature. It's best. And so
But
really,
there's something that's
what
like
we do.
pulling you towards that vision, even if it is uncomfortable.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the next uncomfortable thing you did, which is working with me. And you and I always are very transparent about our journey. We never planned on working together. When we met online on a cheesy dating website, that wasn't part of the agenda at all.
Right.
And so we kind of fell into it, and it was very exciting, but also scary because we had no clue what we were doing. And I'll just speak transparently for myself. First of all, when I created I Heart My Life, it was my vision. And again, we never planned on working together. So kind of letting you come into the business, as excited as I was, it was also scary because I was worried about how we were going to work together. Was it going to work out? How do I even explain to you what I need help with? How do I let go of control? And all of that was a huge learning curve. So take us back to your role in I Heart My Life from the beginning, because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, so it was very exciting, and I remember we celebrated by going to Venice and had this beautiful kind of celebration of that shift in a chapter in our lives and my life.
Yeah.
But then the year started and it was different. It's a very different type of relationship to be at home working with your wife. It's a very different environment for me, being used to working outside of where I lived and in an environment surrounded by lots and lots of people. So now being on my own or with you, Emily. And so It was a very different environment for both of us in so many ways.
Especially because you're an extrovert and you love to be around people.
Yeah, right. So I am very energized by people, and so it was a real challenge. It was a very up and down year. It was very much like excited about these new challenges, but then trying to figure it out. And that's how we grow, right? Through challenge and through sometimes the messy bits. As Robin Sharma said, if it's not messy, it's not real progress. And based on that statement, it was a very progressive year.
Yes, every year since has been.
Right. And so initially how I integrated, so I left and I was, I had my coaching, I was doing a bit of coaching with Sean. And then it was a matter of me helping you out, Emily, as much as I could around any business stuff, the graphics or setting up the website and things like that. But also, me learning about this new industry. So I signed up for Brendan Burchard's Expert Academy, and I went to that, which was really the first introduction to what I would now call my second family, which is the whole Brendan Burchard community, who I love dearly. And that really changed the game for me, because it not only did it teach me about the online marketing world and this whole space that we're moving into, but it got me into a space of people that were all along the same lines, entrepreneurs, wanted to serve, that were a lot of coaches, but even just a different type of business person, even people that were in businesses that I was aware of, realtor or kind of or banking or anything. They were just a different breed of businesswoman that wanted to serve. And so that was really exciting to me. So coming back from that,
can I interrupt you for 1 second? I remember a story that you told me while you were at Experts Academy. We spoke on the phone for like an hour, which we probably hadn't done since we were dating because you were so excited. And you said that Brendan Burchard shared a story about his $1 million day. And I don't know if you remember that, but you said, you know, you finally could see how that was possible. And like, that wasn't even part of your world before, you know, you didn't know anyone who had ever done that. And so to be around these amazing, inspirational people who, like you said, they're about service and they're about heart and they're about giving back, in addition to obviously the success that they desire and the goals that they want to hit. And so from my perspective, it was really exciting because I had gone through programs and been around coaches who inspired me, and then to see you find your place and where you belong and feel inspired by people like Brendan and everyone else you met, that was a game changer. Because, you know, one of the things we'll talk about in a bit is about women who are really going for their dreams and not necessarily feeling like their partner's on the same wavelength.
Right, yeah. And that, I think that is so crucial, because naturally you were a bigger thinker than me. You grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. And so the idea of the how stopping you from moving forward just didn't compute, right? And it's something that is so natural for a lot of people. And so you're right, for me, being in a space where people were achieving things way beyond anything I thought was possible made me realize that it doesn't even matter whether I think it's possible or not. I think that's the crucial difference. It's that if you're driven by a passion, then why be limited by setting a bar? Why does there even have to be a bar?
Yeah.
You know,
what if there isn't a bar?
Maybe there isn't a bar, right? We were born with imagination so that we could think of things that were outside reality, outside what we've experienced in our life. Like I said, flying to the moon, it's not something anyone had ever done before. So how could you imagine what it'd be like? Or just fly there and find out, right? And figure out as you go. And so, yeah, being around those people made me realize that I was in that bubble because I wasn't using the best tool that I had, and that was my imagination. I was in a creative space, in a creative industry. Yeah, I wasn't using it for my own life and my own vision and goal setting.
That's huge. So I'm going to stop you there because we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I want to talk about how you started to use your imagination in your work and a little bit about the specific work you did within the group programs I started, helping some amazing women, and how that's led to you launching your own programs now. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Right.
All right, so we're back with high performance coach James Williams and my incredible husband. And I want to pick up at a place where we started talking about before the break, where James had joined the I Heart My Life company, the company that I started a few years before. And he started working with some of the women in our group program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And this part is really for anyone who thinks they have to have it all figured out before they start. That's really not the case. So if that's you, definitely pay attention to what James has to share here. So James, take us back to that period of time where you started working within the I Heart My Life company and working with some of the women in the group programs.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So before I'd even been certified as a coach, I felt called to, and we kind of felt called to involve me in the calls, because I know a lot of the ladies were very aware of my role in the business and were really curious. They were kind of very curious to know, well, what's it like to work with your husband? And what does James feel about, the big strides that you've made and what it took to do that in the very beginning? And I want to know what James thinks. Yeah. Right. So basically, initially how it started is we had these, what we called laser coaching sessions, where I gave the ladies an opportunity just to book 15-minute calls to talk to me, where I could support them in any way that I could support them, right? Yeah. I picked up a lot of useful knowledge in my life, even in television, that I could really support these ladies with, and I get on with everyone. And so I just thought it'd be an interesting segue into coaching. But what was really interesting is that a lot of the questions I got were just about that. It was about, what's it like to work with your wife, and what did you think when Emily first came to you and said, I want to invest all of this money in building a business, and I can't guarantee it's going to work. What did you think?
Yeah, because for people who don't know this, I didn't have the money to start to be a part of the program that trained me to be a coach and build my business. So I had to use one of James's empty credit cards because all mine were maxed out. So he let me borrow $7,500 to start my business.
Right. And that was, that was a big deal at the time. I mean, $7,500 is a big deal for anyone, right? But at the time, especially for us, that was a sizable investment. We had no plan of how we were going to pay that off quickly.
No. And I was already $30,000 in credit card debt, making like $25,000 a year. You had your own debt, and so yeah.
Yeah, and the only answer, and the interesting thing is, the first time that someone asked me that question, I don't think I'd thought about it as much until the first time someone asked me. And the truth was, I believed in my heart and my soul that Emily could do anything she set her mind to. I just believed in her. And it was simple as that. And it would have been easy to over-intellectualize it and think about, what if it goes wrong? Because the truth is, I had all those thoughts. I had the thoughts of the protective husband that didn't want Emily to feel the pain of failure. But I just believed in her. But at the same time, I totally understand why a lot of, guys might feel that way. It's not that they're being mean. It's that if you can't see how something's possible, it's easier for you to let your ego take over and think of the doomsday scenario and see that as protecting your loved one. And that's what quite often happens. And so,
just like you didn't want to necessarily be uncomfortable.
No, exactly. Right. And that's maybe why it was an easier choice for me, because I was moving towards an uncomfortable place myself. So it was easier to start thinking like that.
Yeah.
So, I was on the phone talking to a lot of the ladies in the coaching programs about, really how to navigate their relationship with their husband based on how I'd done it. So they were getting to hear, the masculine perspective on the journey, so that they could maybe better understand their husband's or their boyfriend's point of view. So that was really fascinating. And the interesting thing was that I really enjoyed those conversations because, I was in the same navigation with you, Emily. We were trying to figure out this journey and, how this model of a marriage wasn't something that we grew up with. We didn't know what it's like to both be working and at home and be husband and wife. And so we were navigating this. And as any good coach will tell you, we're all growing, we're all developing. And, the coach that you hire is just a little bit further ahead than you, but they're still growing. We're all growing. Yeah, and so it was very close to my heart to be talking about that. Yeah. It was really close to my heart to be talking about that with the ladies on the course. So it was amazing, and actually, helped me figure out some of the things that I was really passionate about serving.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about that, because I think for both of us, it surprised us that they wanted to know what it was like to work together, because initially you were going to help them with other things, high performance and, whatever it was that they needed support with mindset wise, but we didn't know that it would be kind of about the relationship element. And so, fast forward a little bit to more present time, that relationship work is really on your heart, and you have a heart for working with, supporting men to help them understand how to handle is not the right word, but that's what's coming to mind. How to handle that driven woman who, like me, is working 70 to 100 hours a week in the beginning, building her business. She wants to have it all. She wants to be the mom, the wife, the successful entrepreneur, the multimillionaire, and now you have a desire to work with that man, but that wasn't part of the plan. So talk a little bit about that. Yeah. So,
I'll take you through the whole journey. So obviously after reading The Charge, the reason that book resonated with me before I left my career was because it was a very structured look at personal development around mental, physical health, mindset, relationships, and a lot of relationship with yourself work. And that really, the way it was structured really resonated with me. And so where that led, a few months later was me discovering this concept of high performance, the way that Brendan Burchard talked about it. And so I studied up on high performance and eventually got certified as a certified high performance coach. Exactly, I don't know if you remember this, but exactly 12 months to the day of my last day of work.
Yeah, I remember.
My career, which is really wonderful kind of coincidence.
Yeah.
And what that work allowed me to realize, in alignment with being interested in how, as spouses, we can allow our partners to rise or fall depending on the relationship, was that actually any good relationship is first and foremost about the individual being the best version of themselves. Because what I realized, having talked to a lot of female entrepreneurs on the journey up until this point, is that a lot of them that didn't have husbands that were necessarily doing personal development work could only go so far, because when you're around someone who isn't doing the personal work and growing with you, there becomes a gap where you're rising and your partner's not rising. And so I realized that actually, and as me and you, Emily, went through relationship work ourselves over the last year, we realized that as in a company, a team is made up of individuals that are running at their best. So it's the same in a relationship. If I'm the best version of myself and I take care of myself and I make sure I pay attention to my agenda and my energy and my needs, then I'm a better husband because I have the energy and the presence and the patience and the ability to be there whenever I'm needed as a husband. And
just
I think
like
that
I know you love the phrase about putting on your own mask before helping others.
Right, that's right. So as we all know, when you fly in an airplane, they say make sure you put on your oxygen mask before helping anyone else, because if you don't look after yourself, how can you be there for everyone else? I remember a wonderful guy that I met, an amazing coach that I met this year, Javon. He said it like this, that, you know, if you can imagine that your energy, your spirit, yourself being a bottle of water, you know, if you're serving people from a half full bottle, then you're doing them a disservice. If you're trying to be a good wife or be a good husband and you're only half full, then you're only being half a good wife or a good husband. And that's a disservice to you, to the people you care about, and to your clients, right? So what he spoke about was you give to yourself, you be a full bottle, and then everyone else gets from your overflow. They get your overflow. So, you know, it's really important to set the intention of, you know, if you can be 100% for yourself, everything else in the world, everything else extrinsic to you is a bonus. And so my real passion has now led me to this point of understanding, having taken a lot of female entrepreneurs through certified high performance coaching to be the best version of themselves. My dream is to take couples and work with them individually, allowing them to be the best version of themselves unapologetically, so that they can actually be amazing versions of themselves for each other. Because as me and Emily are discovering, when we're at our best, the team comes together between us two and we are absolute rock stars. You know, there's no weakness, there's no resentment or feelings of I should have or he should have, because we have done what we needed to do for ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. So it's interesting how the very first experience of coaching I had has led me to the point of wanting to continue helping couples be the best version they can be for each other.
I think that's so important, and people listening might be surprised, because I was definitely surprised when we started working with our own relationship coach, Marla Mattinson, who is on the show as well coming up. It was obvious that, like you said, it's also the work between the two of us, it's not complete unless we work on ourselves. And I always thought, you know, I'd have to like bend over backwards to please you, and, you know, it had to be about what both of us want and constant compromise, and, you know, the other is some of that, of course. But it's really important to stay true to ourselves. And I think the biggest piece for me was just being honest about how I'm feeling. And, you know, because there was, like I said, I want to be really transparent in this show today. There was a period of time where I was really resentful of you because I felt like you came into the business and I built the foundation, and now you get to work with all these amazing clients who, you know, I found, and whatever else the story was. And so I didn't want to share that because I felt wrong. I felt like, just like I always say regarding jealousy, I felt like it was evil and I needed to hide it and not admit. But Marla helped us bring everything to the surface and helped us really realize like who we are as our true selves and who we want to be, and just to learn to communicate and show up as our best self individually on behalf of our marriage and the union and our relationship together. And I think that's something that's probably new for a lot of people to hear.
Yeah. This last year with Marla has been absolutely incredible. And I think that's sealed it, you know, for me, that I would never pretend to be a relationship coach for couples. That, you know, what Marla does is very, very unique and very, very special. But it's certainly, you know, through that process, when we started, I don't think I'd comprehended the idea that we'd be doing most of the work with ourselves.
Yeah, me either. No.
You know, that it was really self-discovery. You know, wow, how am I showing up in this relationship? And how am I showing up in this relationship with myself? Right? Because it's all this inner chatter. It's all this stuff going on in here. You know, you have these conversations with yourself that your partner might be involved with in your head, but not in real life, yet you still react to them. It's like
they've heard it.
Some reason I'm really mad at you because I had a dream that we had a fight.
Yeah, like that Friends episode where Phoebe's mad at Ross, but she can't remember why.
Right, yeah.
Well, and I think you always say this to our clients. For those listening, we work with a lot of coaches, and you always tell them, you know, you are your first client, because the first job that you have is to do the work on yourself in your relationship with yourself.
That's right. You are your first client, and it's a contract for life. And I always say to my clients, you know, would you treat your clients the way you treat yourself? Would you say that to your client? Would you deny your client what she needs?
Yeah.
Would you lie to your client? You know, would you make excuses and not follow through on a promise to your client? And it's crazy how we can treat people outside of ourselves better than we treat ourselves. It's just, and when we go back to what I said earlier about that you are of service to everyone around you when you serve yourself. When you're the best version of yourself by giving to yourself, you're a better version for everyone else. So, you know, the thought of putting everyone first and leaving yourself the scraps is actually harming the people around you because they're not getting the best version of you. And I know I was guilty of that in our relationship at the very beginning, right? Being so, I rewarded myself for this idea of selflessness by putting your needs first. And that, what does that lead to? It just leads to resentment and me being this person that's been giving myself the scraps, which is a weaker man, right?
Yeah.
I think guys get to realize that being vulnerable and asking for what you need is a strength. And part of what I've learned through working with these amazing female entrepreneurs is that both men and women really get the opportunity now to have a wonderful relationship with themselves in service of the unions that they have in their life, right? And, you know, especially guys, I've realized through the female entrepreneurs that I've worked with that I really am called to work with guys to help them see what I've seen, that actually you don't have to be this old idea of the macho guy that doesn't share his feelings. You know, that's only hurting yourself. You know, that it's powerful and strong to be vulnerable and share what it is that you need, and massively in service of the relationships that you have in your life. But it takes actually a very strong guy to admit that. It takes a very strong person to be open to their feelings, especially when they're not used to it. And I understand that. And that's why I would never go as far to blame the guys who have sometimes made it a little bit more difficult for the female entrepreneurs I've worked with, because when you're not used to expressing yourself in a way, and when really you've got the couple's future in mind, and you think that there's a risk involved, it's easy to just to go down that path.
Yep.
And so it's just about being understanding and, you know, knowing that I've been there. But the other side, outside that bubble, is a much more exciting place.
Definitely. Well, let's pick it up there after the break. And I also want you to share what the woman who is maybe experiencing the unsupportive partner can do as she moves forward towards her dreams. I think the listeners would love some tangible steps that they can take, or ways to view the situation and how to even handle a partner like that. So let's talk a little bit about that after the break.
Great.
All right, so we're back. I'm Emily Williams, and I'm here with my husband and business partner, James Williams. So let's pick it up where we left off. I would love for James to share a little bit from his experience how you handle it if your partner doesn't understand what you're trying to do, especially as a driven female entrepreneur, wannabe entrepreneur. How do you deal with that unsupportive spouse or boyfriend who just doesn't seem to get it? So James, I'd love your take on that.
Yeah, that's a good one, and it's something that comes up a lot. That first leap into an entrepreneurial journey is a really challenging one at times, and it can be scary, and it can bring up all sorts of fears, which is the right thing, right? If we're not doing something that scares us, then we're not trying hard enough, right? So the last thing we need is people around us stoking that fear and making it stronger. And so quite often I get that question, and what do I do? This is what I get, is how do I persuade him to believe in how do I make him believe in what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And, you know, the truth is that it's not your job to coach your husband or your boyfriend or your partner, you know?
In fact, that's probably a turnoff, right?
Yes. I mean, me and Emily have both been guilty of this, right? Imagine two coaches living together. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they see our books. Like we can coach one another from time to time, and it's not good.
Right. It's not your job. It's not your job to coach your husband, right? Or your partner or your boyfriend. And so what's really important is to be the best version of yourself, because if you think about influence, you think about the most influential people in the world, the people that have really led the way in a positive way. They've done that through being a role model, not through being a dictator. So
say that again.
The people that have influenced us the most in the world have achieved that through being a role model, not by being a dictator. And I'm talking about the positive influences in the world that have led the way, that have showed up as their highest selves. Because the truth is, for all the coaches out there, you'll know that if you just tell your client what they should be doing, that, you know, and it's from a painful place, the doors are not going to open up to that. And so as a partner, that especially if your partner's feeling a little bit scared about the journey you're taking because they're worried about what might go wrong, their mindsets might not be quite there on the journey with you. It's not their mission, right? Why should they be excited about it if it's not their mission? And so I always encourage my clients, as I said earlier, about you be the best version that you can be and show up unapologetically as the best version of you. And that will inspire. And that will inspire everyone, including your partner. And it's tough because there's going to be times where your partner just won't believe you, and they may come at you with some negative stuff there's something going on in their life. But if you can just really show up as an excited, enthusiastic person that is really driven by what it is that you're doing, you can't help but be inspired by that. When you meet someone that doesn't believe you, resentment and disbelief with negative feelings, you're just going to get that right back. There's something called mirror neurons in your mind, in your brain, right? So that when you see someone yawn, people yawn. When you see someone trap their finger in a door, you go, oh, like that, because it's reflective. And so it's similar with emotion. If your husband or partner is saying, oh, I don't think it's going to work, you're taking too many risks, why are you doing this? Why aren't you keeping it, why aren't you just doing something that's safe? If your response to that is fear-based and aggressive and defensive, then that does not represent someone who really, really believes and is following their passions. Because that kind of emotion, that's not the sort of person you're going to believe in.
Right.
Those people that have led the way in the world and been inspiring haven't done so from a defensive place.
Yeah.
Oprah hasn't shown up defensive around her beliefs. She's been passionate and she's been excited and she's been unapologetic about her beliefs, which is why so many people have ended up following her and being inspired by her, because she has the ability to think way outside the box and still allow people to come with her, even if they can't quite see that far.
Yeah, I remember she was talking about her partner Stedman, and someone was asking whether he feels like he's in her shadow. And she said, no, he's smart enough to know that he's in the light. And I loved that, because I think so many of us as women, we don't want to overpower and we don't want to be too much. And there is a part of us that still wants, the romantic relationship where we're able to not be subservient. That's not what we desire, but we see maybe what our parents had or previous generations, and we don't want to be too dominant over our partner, yet we have all these dreams and ambitions, and we don't know how to have both at the same time. And so what you're saying is just show up and be your best self and focus on you, and obviously communicate as much as you possibly can without, force feeding someone your new beliefs or your new way of thinking. And you kind of have to are you saying you just kind of have to wait for your partner to join you on the path?
Well, what's really interesting, and Robin Sharma talked about this at the Titan Summit that we were just at.
Yeah.
And, though the people around you that trigger you the most, whether it's, why isn't he believing in me? Or, why do I feel so defensive when I'm around him? Because I want to talk about this big stuff of investing and I'm afraid of being judged. The people that cause those sort of reactions from you they're your biggest teachers. They teach you a lot about yourself. And so next time you're thinking to yourself, why is he judging me? Why doesn't he believe in me? Take Byron Katie, for example, and how she would go about that question, and replace he with you. Why am I not believing in me?
Yeah.
Because when you believe in yourself fully, why would anyone else's opinion matter? Even the person you care about the most. If you really believe in yourself, so take it, for example, say you chose an amazing pair of shoes that you love, and your husband thinks they're terrible, but you love them. It probably wouldn't bother you. You're like, well, I love them. I don't mind that he doesn't like them. I absolutely love them. You believe in it so much that it really doesn't matter whether he likes them or not.
I don't think we've had that with shoes, but I think you hated this tweed jacket that I had at one point.
Right. Right. And it's, of course, you'd like me to like your clothes, right? But when you love something that much, it really doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It's just really in alignment with where you want to go.
And so, I think that's so key, because in our relationship, for example, if I'm ever feeling unsure about something and I'm expressing doubts and fears to you, or you can sense that, then it makes you feel the same thing, like you were saying, and it makes you feel protective of me. Whereas if I come to you really confident about something I'm doing, or really excited or happy or whatever, then you feel that, and it makes your reaction, much different.
Exactly. Yeah. So, that's why going back to what I said, it all starts with your relationship with yourself. You focus on yourself and why this is important to you, and what your motive behind your motivation is, your why. Why is it so important? What is the big vision? Why are you so excited to make 2018 the best year ever? And that emotion is going to override the effects that any negativity coming in from the outside is going to have. Yeah. And from the outside is going to be viewed with, I don't understand how it's going to work, but she's so excited about it. She must know something I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I heard someone say, I heard someone say recently that I'm excited to hear what you think about this, that they sometimes feel that women get the vision first. And I'm wondering what you think about that.
Well, we did. I remember I read a really interesting book, The Way of the Superior Man, a few years ago, which actually you'd read first, right?
Yeah.
Which is it's an interesting take on masculine and feminine ways of making choices. And when he talks about masculine, feminine, he's not necessarily talking about men and women. We all have masculine and feminine energy within us. And he talks a lot about how the more masculine perspective might be to look above the woods, plan out the route, and then start once you've got a idea of where to go. And the more feminine route might be just to head out into the woods with a vision of where you want to go and figure it out as you go, right? Both ways are fantastic. There's an interesting way of choosing what's right for the right time. But I know, for example, with you, Emily, you just went. You just had the vision and you just went. You didn't care how it was going to work. It's like, I'm going to figure it out as I go. And you know what? At the very beginning, that's actually really, really important, because there are so many things to figure out on the journey that if you tried to figure it all out at the beginning, it would be overwhelming. And so being able to bounce between the feminine way of just going for what you're passionate about and figuring out when you go, and then to the masculine, let's kind of plan the route a bit. It's really important to bounce between the two.
And I think you had that as well, because you didn't know exactly who you would be working with when you move forward on this career. I mean, you thought about working with people who were changing careers at one point, and so you had to figure it out as you went along too. So you had that element inside of you as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's really important to have that element, because I mean, for me personally, I love structure. I love to be able to sort of like plan ahead a little bit, but I'm more aware now than I was in my previous career how listening to the drivers that are here in my heart and my soul are very, very important, because I haven't, like, the guy that I'm going to be in 6 months that knows more and is even more educated and is even more read and is even more advanced in what he's doing, he's going to be more capable. So I want to meet him with the vision that I'm thinking about now. I don't want to wait until I'm there. I want to start on that vision now, because I trust that he's going to be there in 6 months' time when I get there, and he's going to be more than ready to action what it is that I'm planning right now.
I love that. And I think it's really important to point out that we're not perfect, but we do the work. And one of the things that you always said is the work doesn't work unless you do the work, or something like that. And I think that's a really good reminder. Like, you have a vision of who you desire to be, and you're going to take the steps and do the work, and, continue to listen to your heart as it guides you in order to get to that place. That's
right. Yeah. And that's where using the vision is really, really useful, because the work doesn't work unless you do the work, and I'm doing the work. And sometimes my clients are a reminder of the other work that I need to do, right? There's so much work to be done. And that's why we can't do all the work all the time. We've got to really figure out what's really important to us now, where are our priorities now? And you just do the best you can, and you evolve, and you have a goal and you have a vision. But it's really important to come back to the present moment, right here, right now, where we are actually doing the work. Right. We can't do the work in the future, and we can't do the work in the past. We can only do it right here. And as long as we've got a rough direction that we're aiming towards, we can always divert and navigate and evolve that path as we go along. We should totally, because I may have a big idea right now of what I want to do in 6 months' time. But based on the last few years, I guarantee you that in 2 months from now, that vision is going to be bigger. Yeah. I'm just not ready to think like that yet. And I can think pretty big. But our last few years have been like, even you can think really big, and you've been surprised by what's happened. So we must allow ourselves to evolve and to scale up. I think it was Robin Sharma said that, the highest performers in the world hit the targets that no one else hits.
No one else can see.
Well, I hadn't finished.
Oh, okay.
The high performers in the world hit the targets that no one else can hit. But the real leaders out there in the world, the real impact makers, they hit the targets that no one else can see. Because if I aim for a solid target in 6 months' time, and I decide, right, I'm not going to divert, that's exactly where I'm going, that's the size of my vision, and I just aim for that, well, what happens if I'm 5 months in, I'm actually capable of hitting a much bigger target?
Yeah, like you said at the beginning about using your imagination and how, sometimes we do suppress that. Our imagination itself is even limited.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's exciting. It's like the fact that I can sit here and just like be as creative as possible and think of something really, really big. Yet I know that I'm capable of more. That throughout as long as I'm breathing, I'm capable of growing. Right? I'm always capable of more. What we know from neuroscience with neuroplasticity is that our genetics don't have to determine our behavior and our capabilities. Our brains are always capable of learning and growing as long as we're continuously setting those big goals and big challenges and reasons for ourselves to grow. So it's limitless. There's no, as I always say to my clients, one way to take the pressure off is knowing that there doesn't exist. I'll do it when I get there, or I'll be excited and happy when I get there. Well, there doesn't exist. And I think that's amazing, because if there did exist, what would you do next?
Yeah, amazing. So one question for you. How have you been able to create a life better than your dreams?
How have I been able to create a life better than my dreams?
Yeah.
Well, I think the most important thing is actually starting to listen to what's in here, what's inside me. Once I started paying attention to my agenda and started paying attention to the things and the people and the situations and the visions that actually lit me up and made me feel excited and happy to be alive and really, really buzzed, then it allowed me to start visioning as we just said, visioning for a future that is so exciting, even if I can't imagine how it's going to work. And so I guess I put it down to one simple concept, and that is reconnecting with the 12-year-old boy who was too young to have been affected by negative beliefs and societies and all these filters put up, when we grow up. He was young enough to vision for things that were so ridiculously expansive and abundant. That young child that was just brave and bold and excited by everything and present, that kid with the knowledge that I now have has allowed me to live a life now that's better than my dreams, because a life that's better than my dreams is a life where there's endless possibility.
I love that. So we've come to the end of the show, and I think that's a great place to leave it. I'd love for you to share with the listeners where they can find you and follow you online.
Sure. So you can find me at jamesrswilliams.com. That's jamesrswilliams.com. And what would be great if you want to test and have a look at where you feel you are right now around the world of high performance and your relationship with yourself. If you go to jamesrswilliams.com, you can click on my programs, and on any of the programs that seem relevant to you, you can fill out a free questionnaire which just asks you some questions around high performance, around your relationships, around your goals, where you're at right now. And it's a really great opportunity just to sort of ask yourself questions that you may not have thought of before. And if you fill that in, I will get a copy of that, and you will be on the list to get invited to any free webinars that I host and exciting opportunities and events that are coming up in the future, which I'd love to see any of you and share with you all the things that I'm learning and all of the programs that I've got coming up.
Love it. And you're also a part of the I Heart My Life programs like iHeartSuccess.com and iHeartCoaching.com.
That's right. Yeah, you can find me. You can find me as part of the I Heart My Life community as well. So
amazing. Well, for everyone listening and watching, I hope you enjoyed today's show. You can check out James at jamesrswilliams.com. And until next time, remember that you too can create a life that's better than your dreams. Show up, follow your heart, and take action starting today. And I'll look forward to talking to you very soon on the next show. Thanks again. Bye. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at I Heart My Life Now. And did you know? I'm on the radio every single day. Visit americaoutloud.com to download the Talk Radio app so you can tune in at 8 a.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. GMT.